In 1984, a Russian emigre named David Bogatin went shopping for apartments in New York City. The 38-year-old had arrived in America 7 years before with just $3 in his pocket. But for a former pilot in the Soviet Army, his specialty had been shooting down Americans over North Vietnam. He had clearly done quite well for himself. Bogatin wasn't hunting for a place in Brighton Beach, the Brooklyn enclave known as Little Odessa, for its large population of immigrants from the Soviet Union. Instead, he was fixated on the glitziest apartment building on Fifth Avenue, a gaudy 58-story edifice with gold-plated fixtures and a pink marble atrium, Trump Tower. A monument to celebrity and conspicuous consumption, the tower was home to the likes of Johnny Carson, Steven Spielberg, and Sophia Loren. Its brash 38-year-old developer was something of a tabloid celebrity himself. Donald Trump was just coming into his own as a serious player in Manhattan real estate, and Trump Tower was the crown jewel of his growing empire. From the day it opened, the building was a hit. All but a few dozen of its 263 units had sold in the first few months, but Bogatin wasn't deterred by the limited availability or the sky-high prices. The Russian plucked down $6 million to buy not one or two, but 5 luxury condos. The big check apparently caught the attention of the owner. According to Wayne Barrett, who investigated the deal for the Village Voice, Mr. Trump personally attended the closing along with Mr. Bogatin. If the transaction seemed suspicious, multiple apartments for a single buyer who appeared to have no legitimate way to put his hands on that much money. There may have been a reason. At the time, Russian mobsters were beginning to invest in high-end real estate, which offered an ideal vehicle to launder money from criminal enterprises. Jonathan Weiner, a Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for International Law Enforcement, said, "During the 80s and 90s, we in the U.S. government repeatedly saw a pattern by which criminals would use condos and high-rises to launder money. It was done very systematically, and it explained why there are so many high-rises where the units were sold but no one is living in them. When Trump Tower was built, it was only the second high-rise in New York that accepted anonymous buyers." Earlier in 1984, a New York Times columnist, Sidney Schonberg, wrote that Trump was trying to force rent-controlled tenants out of the Central Park South building by offering the city the empty apartments to house vagrants. "People find that very interesting somehow," says Trump. "I have a bunch of empty apartments, and there are people right outside sleeping in the street. It was a sincere offer to the city." Trump says he has petitioned to demolish the building and replace it with a deluxe hotel. Mr. Trump says, "I have a building with mostly well-connected millionaires paying $400 a month. It's a disgrace." Mr. Trump denies that he was trying to force people out. Trump's lawyer on this matter, Lawrence Bernfeld, says Trump is working through legal and proper channels to demolish the building, and that the tenants are using delaying tactics. John Moore, chairman of the building's tenant association, maintains that not more than 5 millionaires live in the building, out of about 60 rented units. He says that many of the tenants are people with average or limited income, including 15 women over 60 living alone, as well as one 99-year-old woman who lives with a nurse. The rest are upper middle class, Moore says. The remaining tenants do not want to move out. "It is our unequivocal judgment that Donald Trump does not have a chance to get that building demolished," says Herman Badillo, the attorney who represents the tenant association. "We will be opposing it strongly. The situation is currently in a web of legal suits and countersuits between Trump and the tenants."